Admit it, we've all had the idea or dream of creating an invention that will make us millionaires. It's turning that idea into reality that's the trick. There's the patent process and finding the right production partner to bring it to market. Today we talk with one man from West Michigan who's made a living of innovating. We'll talk with him on Newsmakers. Should your idea become a business? It's a question, and it's also a new book written by Michael Suman. He's an innovator who's been working with individuals from mom and pop startups to corporate America. Mike, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me.
This is a great little book. It's a handbook, and if you're out there and considering bringing an idea or that dream you've had overnight to market, you kind of turn things on its head. You're not always in favor of, you got to get the patent and you got to get the financing. You're kind of saying you got to test things out first.
Exactly. The book was written for two different groups. It was written for inventors that work alone in their garages or labs or whatever, and it was also written for the inventor inside a company. And while they seem like different jobs, their first task is exactly the same, which is to move their idea forward. They have to sell it to somebody. If you work inside a company, you got to sell it to your boss or the review committee or whoever makes those decisions. And if you're working alone, you have to sell it to almost everybody you meet on the street, whether that's finance support, engineering support, marketing support, or customer, distributor, or somebody. So part of the book is written for the standalone inventor, and part of the book is written for corporate innovators.
Should we start with the guys in the garage that you were
Sure.
talking about, the guys in the basement? I think everybody has had a great idea, and unfortunately, sometimes you forget those great ideas. That happens, right?
Oh, absolutely.
But if you have the idea, you've written it down, you have an idea of how to go about it. What are the first steps?
Well, the biggest mistake I see standalone inventors making, clearly the biggest thing I see them doing wrong, is they don't do enough research about the idea itself. And I call myself an addicted inventor, we're probably one of the worst people to check on our own idea because we really don't want to find the answer. So we'll Google and we'll put in a couple days' effort or maybe even a week's effort. But I think you have to have a set of fresh eyes, look over your shoulder. If you don't have any money, as I suggest, find an inventor buddy to do that research for you. If you do have some money, go to a market research firm and ask to hire somebody for what I call a prototype search. Say you want to hire somebody for just 2 hours to find out if this product not only is in the market, has it ever been in the market and failed? You want to know all that stuff. And so you hire somebody for $60 to $80 an hour to do that search for you just for 2 hours, and in 2 hours a professional will find more about if that idea has ever been in the market than you and I will in a week.
And I think people always think, well, I've got to get a patent. Is that something that you have to? Maybe I'm even jumping too far ahead here, right?
Well, I think the patent, I have a caution in there about be careful not to get involved with patent, what you see on TV, the patent, give us $5,000, we'll tell you if you've got a good idea. Most of those turn out poorly, to be honest with you. You can get a lot more done locally, I think, than the money they charge you in the results. The second biggest thing, just to keep moving forward with that list, is a lot of people will get an idea, like you're going to invent that glass, and you'll work on that glass, and you'll change the shape, and you'll get a prototype for maybe a year or two. A lot of people do. But you don't prototype the rest of the business. You don't prototype the packaging. You don't prototype the brochures and the distribution system, in the supply, the partnerships, the financial forecast. You have to prototype all of that stuff as you're developing the business, as you're developing the product. Because when you get all done and you have this product, if you haven't put any work on the rest of that stuff, what are you going to do with it? So to answer your question on a patent is, once you've done all of that, and you'll see I have some examples in here about how to test that market. If that market test goes well, then you need a patent. Put simply, if there's no market, you don't need a patent. But certainly patent isn't the first step. And unfortunately, a lot of people do that. And as you know, over 90% of patents issued never make it to the market. So I kind of, as you said, turned things around a little bit and said, let's go prove if there's a market. Let's get the idea prototyped. Let's get the whole business case prototyped. Then let's go see if there's a market. And then we'll back into the investment. Which brings me to the third point, which is The third biggest mistake I see is people spend way too much money too early. They'll go off, they get a good idea, they think is a good idea, and they'll sign a 5-year lease for an office. They'll buy computers. They might even hire an assistant. And all this investment just is a burden on the process. And so I say bootstrap, bootstrap, bootstrap. Do a little bit, prototype something, get it in the market and test it, take that profit, go to the next step. But debt in the beginning is just a killer.
Talking about, there's a lot of emotion that goes into this. When you talk about getting the lease and all this, how much of that is ego? Hey, I've got this product, and look, I'm on the map now.
Well, it depends on the individual. I'm certainly suspect of that because when we started talking, one of the first steps you do as an inventor is you have to have enough ego, I guess to call it, to say that I've invented something that nobody else in the world's ever thought of. That takes a little bit of self-confidence. The flip side of that is I also have to have enough confidence to go prove that idea wrong before I go spend money on it. So pride and ego, as it says on the cover, I just filed for my 50th patent. I don't care about any of those patents. The only ones I care about are the ones that made money, honestly. And so, yeah, it's fun to have those. I do them a little bit different. I don't spend the same money that everybody spends to get a patent. As you'll see in the book, that I have some kind of backdoor ways to get some of that done quicker and faster. So patents are important, but only if there's a market.
Keeping with the emotional theme here, trust. You have an idea. You hear some horror stories of ideas that have been stolen or whatever else. How do you get over that?
Well, there's a couple of ways, and we'll just keep going down that list as you verify that there's a market. One of the first things I tell people to do is buy all the competitive things in the market and spend the money. Yep, it's going to be $300 or $400, maybe $500, depends on what product you're in. But if you're not willing to invest that and get everything out on the table and find out what those products are, and then does yours, the idea you're working on, really have advantages over all of that? So you have to do that. Then the trust part comes in. If you've prototyped, I'll say a marketing brochure, and I go into detail on how to do that pretty inexpensively. The next thing I tell you to do is to go to that, in whatever industry you're in, go to that national show. You can go to McCormickPlace.com in Chicago or the Lucas Oil Center in Indianapolis and look and see when all these shows are going to be. Detroit, Cleveland, they're all around they're all around the country. Take your little mock-up brochure, go to that show, and walk into the potential distributors and interrupt them and say, excuse me, just a minute, is this something, if I could bring to your market for X number of dollars, is this something you would show some interest in? Now, most people would say, you're giving away that idea, back to your trust question. I say, depending on how you make that brochure, you tell them what you're doing, you don't tell them how you're doing it. But at some point, if you don't get a distributor to give you some sort of a nod, don't move forward. And I also tell people, when you're in that show, and you go into that booth and you start asking those questions, those research questions, half of those people in the booth are going to throw you out because their attorneys told them to. They're not there for that, to look for new ideas. If those kind of things embarrass you, don't start the project. You know, you almost have to, I want to say to some people, if you're not real comfortable with begging, don't start a business based on a new idea, because it's really hard. And if you take those things personal, don't get started. So now, when you leave that show, before you went, you got all the competitive stuff. You've got your mock-up marketing message. You've got 3 or 4 cards from distributors that say, yes, if you do that and send it to me, a prototype, I'll give it an honest test with my salespeople. Now you have a distribution system, may or may not work, but at least you have some people before you've even filed for a patent. I mean, you can do a patent pending search with a patent agent for just a few $100s and get that process started. But you don't necessarily have to file to get total protection. When you get all of that done, you've covered your bases the best you can, and so you have to trust that those steps are going to be made. But can you still get ripped off? Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I would imagine you're talking about begging. I mean, you'll never find out if you don't ask. But on the flip side, say you've got a handful of business cards that come back your way. What if you get locked in with the wrong guy? I mean, it's one of those things where
Well, we talk about that. We talk about partnerships, contracts, and it's a big part of the deal. And any contract that you sign, and you need an attorney to help get those things in order. But if you sign a contract for distribution, there has to be a divorce clause in it. I call them business prenuptials. You have to know, as excited as we both are, and this thing's going to sell 10 million parts, you have to say, if we don't hit these goals, we both can walk away. And that has to be a clause in that distribution system. Because they can take your idea and go find another supplier, and away you go. That happens all the time. Individual inventors, while we're still on that point, I suggest to most people when they see somebody copying them by maybe a big company's ripping them off, I wouldn't take them to court. It's too expensive. Litigation attorneys can be several $100s an hour, and they like to work in packs. Before you know it, you're $100,000 into this lawsuit with a multi-billion-dollar company. I just walk away. So I have that in some of my business plans and the products I sell every day now, that I can get in and get out before that happens. And with a little bit of luck, there's ways of getting around that. If you think that you're going to be ripped off by a large company, you can get to them earlier and try to make a partnership. So in the partnership is that they can't duplicate your concept, and if they do, then they owe you X number of dollars. So you can be a little aggressive there. There's ways of getting around getting ripped off, but it still happens. But not as much as we all think, but it's a possibility.
For our viewers, if they're saying, yeah, sounds like he knows what he's talking about, give a little bio, your background, and how you arrived where you are today.
Well, I was Vice President of New Business Development and Advanced Sales for a very innovative company in West Michigan called Prince Corporation in Holland. The founder and owner, Ed Prince, passed away. It was a pretty neat guy. And the family sold the company to Johnson Controls, which was a $22 billion automotive division at the time, and I was promoted to Group Vice President at Johnson Controls, new business development, advanced sales, marketing, public relations, those kinds of things. When you, with a small, doing things on my own, and then a pretty good sized private company, and then a huge, Fortune 50 public company, it's quite a spectrum. So in 2002, I left JCI on good terms, started my own business called Product and Market Development. Always have 3 or 4 things on the internet being sold by me, 3 or 4 things in development, and then I help some companies and I help some individuals.
So every day is a new challenge.
Every day.
And you enjoy that?
Yeah, well, every day is a new opportunity. When things feel like they're getting slowing down and getting bad, that's really an opportunity for change. So optimism is certainly a part of it.
And so here we'll go from that individual in the garage to corporate America, which you've spent many years working in. What takes place inside some major companies when we're talking about innovation? How good are those great minds in corporate America that have a seat at the table? Are they at innovating?
I've been in every technical center, automotive technical center on earth, literally. And United States has, in my opinion, the best innovators and the best equipment and the best technology and the best engineers in the world. We really do. When I go into a company and find out and ask they call me because maybe they're having trouble getting what I call their growth engine accelerated. They got a curve doing this, whether it's profit or new sales or something. The first thing I do is sit down with the executives, and I want to find out through a series of questions and interviews, is innovation and business growth nice to have or must have? And it's a huge difference. Because they could have in their strategic plan that we're going to invest 5% of net or EBITDA or something back in innovation. And they say, yeah, look at this. But I want to know, are they really doing it? And by that I mean things like, as we sit with the CEO and the executives, the top executives in the room, is there somebody in that room that has that budget for reinvestment? And most VPs in a large corporation get a bonus if they don't spend all their budget. Well, I think the person in charge of innovation should get a bonus if they spend their budget. And how do they feel about those kinds of strategies? If you have a budget and you give that person a bonus for not reinvesting the money, why budget it in the first place? So I really want to find out, is there a culture of innovation and do they really mean it? One area that I see happens, especially with innovative companies that started with a good idea that are now hundreds of millions of dollars. Many times they have brought on teams really with good intentions to eliminate risk, and they do a really good, such a good job with that, that the idea the original business founder had wouldn't get approved in their own new system. And so they've kind of eliminated that risk, and they've squeezed all that out of there. One of the other things I look for immediately is, we all remember back in Marketing 101 that every business has a life cycle. It's a normal bell-shaped curve. There's introduction, acceleration, profitability, maturity, decline, and exit. I'm very interested in the maturity signals that companies are seeing or might be getting. And those are just really apparent if you're a set of fresh eyes looking from the outside in. Those signals are things like you're lowering price, but you're still losing market share. You've lost your barrier of innovation, and there's new competitors popping up every day. The people that were around that started that idea and created that new business have all left the company. And you just start going down that list, and still some good companies can look at all those things and sort of be in denial and say, that's not us. If you're spending more money on patent litigation defense than you're spending on reinventing the next idea, that's not a good sign. And so I look for those signs inside companies and try to see what I can do to help them out. Some of them hire me because I'm a good ideator and come up with good ideas, and they think they need new ideas. And I've yet to go in a company that needs another good idea. They have them down in the bowels of their company with the inventors and the people that create those ideas that literally struggle with how to sell that idea inside their own company. If you're an inventor, you're real comfortable in the lab with the beakers and the torches and all that kind of stuff going on. Put that person in the boardroom, and they're a fish out of water. Very few people give those people with the good ideas, the training to sell it inside their own company. They don't know that they should befriend somebody in finance and somebody in engineering and somebody in purchasing and somebody in sales. I've been in companies where I drawer pull from the inventors 5 or 6 ideas, and then I take them around to each VP in the company and say, what do you think of these ideas? And a lot of the people never saw them. Or the sales VP may say, I could have told you those and never sell, but nobody asked. So are we an innovative company or country, and do we have that capability? Absolutely. Usually it's the plumbing. It's the politics inside a company that keeps that innovation from hitting the market.
What's the Drano that you use? How do you get, I mean, do you just have to come in there and kind of shake people at the top and say, look, you really got to open up your mind to everything here?
Yeah, it just depends on the company and the industry. Some people have life cycles that last 10 years, and some just last a matter of months. So it just depends on what that is. As much as I like to be a fixer, I can't. I sit down with the executives after I interview some of the innovation teams inside their own companies and say, this is what I see. And honestly, that isn't received real well all the time. So you have to be very careful how you present that. And I have to be, and I tell them up front, I'm a different kind of consultant, that I don't want a job, and I'm not going to be here 6 months from now. I'm not going to be here 3 weeks from now. So if I fix something for you, you're not going to be able to have the ability to do that when I leave. So we have to use the tools you have. These are the suggestions I think you should do to make the changes and get these things going. And some people do and some people don't.
It just seems like a company structure or philosophical issue more than anything else.
Well, it is, and it's not unusual for good companies to get into that mode. Some of the great ideas I've seen in companies and I've been a part of might be 2 or 3 years too early for the market, and by the time the market opens up, they forgot they had the idea. So it's really good every now and then to go inside a company and, as I say, just do a major drawer pull and find all that stuff, pin it up on walls, and have people come in and look at it, and give them green and red stickers and say, I like this, I don't like this, and let people vote. But some of the suggestions I have for the innovator, the private innovator, how to get an idea to market and test it for just a few $100, corporations might spend $100,000, and they don't need to. They really don't. So sometimes their process that they wrote about how to take an idea from an idea to the market is so convoluted and so structured that every idea they come up with has to follow those 22 steps. Well, you have to shortcut some of that some of the time. Find out if your customers are interested in this. One way I talk about doing that is pain point identification. When you go to a user, you will say you're a patient and I'm your doctor, and I come in to meet you for the first time, and I haven't examined you. I haven't even talked to you. I don't know why you're even in. I haven't even looked at your chart. But the first thing I do is pull out a prescription and I say, look, these come in 50 milligram, 100 milligram. They come in green and red and white. They come in a liquid. They come in a powder. You can mix it with what. And I just go on about the features and benefit of this prescription. And you're starting to wonder, what is he talking about? Why would he do this? That's how we sell. That's how most companies sell outside. That's how most companies sell inside. Look at this great idea. Very few people, I turn that around and say, you know what, I have given you an x-ray. I have taken your blood pressure. I have done a blood examination. And I come back after leaving you for 30 minutes and I come in and I say, we found something. You need to see an expert. He's going to be here on Tuesday. Can you come back? Can I come back and have a meeting and bring my expert to help you out? Two different things. I really want to get intimate and find out what I can do to help your company be successful versus I need to sell this so I get a commission.
And we talk about money here. And you're saying you don't have to spend a whole lot, whether you're the corporation or the individual.
Right.
That's the important thing. I mean, how little can you spend to bring something to market?
Well, when I speak to companies, I always have a product in Flow. I have one in Flow right now. And
has to do with the iPad?
It has to do with the iPad.
Okay.
Yep. And what I do is I find Grand Rapids is just a wonderful resource for photographers and brochure designers and marketing people and things like that. But I'm a lone inventor and I only have a few $100s, right? So I call up one of the best photographers, and I won't mention his name, but I say, I'm going to bring you 8 pictures of this new product that I took, and they're really bad pictures. But that's the 8 I want you to take. And I'm going to pay you for 90 minutes, no more. And at the end of 90 minutes, I'm going to walk out with a disc or a memory stick, and I want those pictures on there. How much would you charge me an hour? And this guy's usually, several $100s an hour. And he said, 150 bucks. So I walked out with these beautiful pictures done with a 20 megapixel camera. And then I found a brochure person, and I make a few phone calls, and I say, I want the best 2-hour brochure you can give me. Here's the pictures, here's the script. Would you do that? Yep, we charge $60 an hour for brochures. So now I've got 100 or 150 in pictures, $100 or 150 in a brochure, and I've got this story that it's still prototype. It's not ready for production, but it really tells the story. It tells those pain points and what prescriptions I've developed to solve those issues. So now I'm only $300 into this story. This product we're talking about for e-readers and pad-type tablet computers, I have some equipment in my own shop at home, laser equipment, that I can cut out my own parts. So for me, I cut out my own parts. It's just a few dollars. Now I need to have a professional box made. I take that same photograph, those same photographs, that same brochure, move around the pictures, take it to Kinko's and have a box, or have it printed on a piece of cardstock, cut it out myself, fold it up and tape it, and I've got a prototype box for $3. Now I've got a brochure, I've got a part, I've got some fantastic pictures and packaging, and I'm under $400, right? I'm ready to go to McCormick Place and see if there's any interest in this thing. In the traditional sense, if I would have gone to a marketing company that I hired when I worked, they want a $3,000 a month retainer and so much an hour and on and on and on. Great model for big businesses, but for the individual like you and I, we only want to spend a few $100s and have the strength when we get back from those shows, 2 or 3 shows, to find out if there's distribution interest. If there isn't, stop. Just stop. It's hard to do, but it's the right thing to do sometimes. But now you've developed this business model that you can dump in all your ideas with. Ideas are the easy part. I get them every day. And you do too if you just think about it. Everybody does, I think. And now you've got a way to get photography, you've got a way to get brochures, you've got a way to go find out if there's a market, you bought all the competition, you've done some testing, and you're just a few $100s into this thing. Move on, but it doesn't work.
Quickly, I'm going to give you the heavy-duty question now. The political environment, regulation, everything else, innovation is one of the catchwords that is going to help fix this economy. You would agree.
Oh, absolutely.
What are you seeing, though, with the politics at play here? I know you don't want to get heavy into that, but you're basically saying, hey, everybody lighten up a little bit.
Yeah, Yeah, I think that both sides need to lighten up a little bit. Both sides need to get along. I think cooperation is the one thing we're missing. When people want to get rid of the EPA, I mean, come on. I mean, we don't want E. coli, our kids to eat bad meat and drink bad milk. I mean, we need some things there. We need to be protected. There's some basic needs that the government needs to do. I think the biggest thing they can do for innovation, personally, is just kind of get out of the way. We have, West Michigan especially, is just really strong in innovation. And I think that we can do it. The Grand Rapids Inventor Network is a private group, so is Muskegon, and no government funding needed.
All right. The book, Should Your Idea Become a Business? It's blue. It has a gorilla on it. It's a great handbook if you're an inventor. Mike Suman, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you for asking me. I enjoyed it.
And thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week.